Today's Evening First Alert Weather Show is brought to you by Bresky Siding.
And good Tuesday evening, Mid-Michigan. Chief Meteorologist Chris Easlick with your Tuesday night weather update. And starting with some winter weather alerts, I'm going to turn the volume down on our TV in front of us just so there's no echo. But we do have some winter storm watches in place for Huron and Sanilac County. But what is important about those winter storm watches, I should say, sorry about that. What is important about these is they are primarily for this part of the county right here, the central and eastern sections of Huron County and the central and eastern sections of Sanilac County. They are not going to be lake effect snow showers, at least as projected right now, that will affect the entire county. So we do expect the west side of Huron County especially to avoid the snow that the east side will get. And we also expect most of western Sanilac County to avoid some of the heavier snow showers that we currently expect to go through northeastern Sanilac County. So here's what is happening for tonight. Let's just set the table a little bit on the current weather scene. We've had a few showers pass through intermittently throughout the day. Hasn't been anything extreme, more or less just nuisance showers. It's been breezy again, southwesterly winds today. A lot of our high temperatures getting up into the 40s this afternoon. So for those who are not a fan of winter, certainly a day that felt a little bit better. Still a wind chill, but still some improvement compared to yesterday. But what we've got is we've got a cold front here that, grab the low pressure system. That's not what I wanted to do. But we have the first of two cold fronts right here. This one a little bit weaker and actually seems to be washing out over the area. It's losing a little bit of luster. But the second one is this area right here. That is currently working its way through the Lake Superior region and also the Upper Peninsula. That is going to lead to a much sharper temperature difference for tomorrow, and it's going to be responsible for our cooling temperatures from morning to afternoon. The warmest part of the day tomorrow is actually going to come tonight at midnight, and then we're going to fall from there. And then eventually we'll get some snow showers out of the deal later tonight and at times through the day tomorrow. So here's how it looks on the hour by hour here. Let's just start the clock at 1:30 in the morning after some of these showers initially tonight do clear themselves out. We do expect as we go through the overnight hours to see some occasional scattered rain and snow showers on the front end. I do not expect rain showers to last too long, or it might even just be a rain and snow mix by the time this happens. But if you notice our temperatures when some of these showers move through, part of that initial cold front, I don't think we're cold enough just yet to be 100% confident that it's all snow. I'm not saying that you won't have snow showers mixed in here, but I don't necessarily think it's to a point where we can completely rule out rain at that point. So if you're up early, if you've got that 4:30 morning commute, may still see a few raindrops mixed in with some of the snowflakes, but I think that takes care of itself pretty quickly. And if you weren't paying attention at 4 o'clock when we stopped this, the projected temperatures at that time were still in the mid-30s. But just 2.5 hours later, we have dropped down into the 20s. And so temperatures will fall very quickly tomorrow, and you start to see more snow showers breaking out on the model here. There's not much of a sign for mix at that point in the precipitation model. And then we go through the rest of the morning. You get some of these occasional lake effect showers. I do think it's possible tomorrow, at least at times, some of these might have some squall-like tendencies where you get some brief, I wouldn't necessarily say guaranteed whiteout conditions, but some reduced visibility at times, and perhaps some rapidly changing conditions on the roads. And that's, I think, especially true with temperatures dropping to the teens and low 20s. It really does not take much for new snow to stick on untreated roads that are that cold. And so I would say let's be careful on the roads tomorrow, even if it doesn't seem like it's a lot of snow. By the time we get to the afternoon, it seems like we've got more snow showers developing. And then I want you to watch from 3:30 onward. This is when we're starting to get more consistent snow showers moving into the thumb. But then as we move through the next several hours after that, it doesn't really leave the thumb. And it just keeps on going and going and going right through the early morning hours of Thursday before eventually we start to see things taper off into Thursday morning. And so that's the reason, again, for those of you who are just joining the stream tonight, it's because the thumb is going to have more consistent snow, plus it's going to pick up some extra moisture off of Lake Huron in the more northwesterly wind type scenario, or even due northerly. And because of that, we do have those winter storm watches that are technically in place from Wednesday afternoon through Thursday morning. But what you will see tomorrow, unless there's a surprise tonight, I think this decision will come tomorrow. I'm not sure if it will be the early morning shift. I'm not sure if it'll be closer to midday. My suspicion is it will be as we do wake up tomorrow. But you will see these change to an advisory or a winter storm warning. My gut feeling tells me that an advisory is probably a little bit more likely, but I don't necessarily think you're going to be able to completely rule out a winter storm warning. What it's going to come down to is what the top end of that range is. The difference between a warning and advisory, it's just a certain amount of snow in a certain amount of time. So I believe a winter storm warning, you need 6 inches or more of snow in 6 to 9 hours, something like that. And then an advisory is a little bit more spread out. So a lot of it's just going to come down to what is the maximum amount of snow and what is the time frame that we see that snow. There's really no difference between the two in my mind for this event. I don't think the lake effect snow is going to care whether you're in an advisory or in a warning. That doesn't change the road conditions. It doesn't change the fact that somebody could get several inches of snow out of this. So regardless of what decision is made, I don't think there's a wrong one. And also notice that there is the potential for some gusts tomorrow that are 30 to 35 miles per hour. So some of that snow, in addition to some of the cold temperatures as it falls, it may be a little bit fluffier tomorrow, might be a little bit more prone to blow around. And if you live in the thumb, especially in some of these areas that we're concerned about with lake effect snow tomorrow, you know that the visibility can certainly be an issue, and you certainly know that the snow can pile up quick in these especially due northerly wind type scenarios. Because what you've got is you've got the wind coming from the north, and you've got all of this water coming off of Lake Huron, whereas opposed to a northwesterly wind, yeah, you get some lake effect, but it's really just coming across just the Saginaw Bay. So you get a much longer fetch is what we call it, a much longer distance over water for those bands of snow to really build themselves up. And so, again, that is what we are watching for tomorrow. So here's the snowfall map with those scattered snow showers. We had to make this area broad just because in these northerly scenarios, there's one thing I've learned over the years is that they can have almost like bullseyes right in the center or in some part of that zone, and then you rapidly taper off. For instance, just in this example, there might be a significant difference in snow from a place like perhaps Ubley over to Bad Axe. And if you notice where that line is, I kind of drew it right through Bad Axe. Bad Axe is right on the border of potentially getting several inches of snow or being just outside of that area and maybe getting 1 inch of snow. And any little wind shift, we might have a northerly wind tomorrow, any little shift maybe to more of a northeasterly direction. If that wind shifts, well, so does this zone of snow. And so be prepared for an update on this tomorrow morning, perhaps even an update tomorrow afternoon before this gets underway. And again, the reason we usually like to keep our snowfall ranges between about 2 and 3 inches. This time we've made an exception and we've gone to 4. But again, it's just because of the variability in the movement of that wind and potentially just how thin those lake effect bands can be, so you get those drastic conditions from one place or another. And then also, it's really tough to sometimes put these areas on maps because they can be so localized. But we did put a 2 to 6 plus on there, which just means that we're expecting maybe within that 2 to 6 range, there might be a bullseye in there if somebody gets maybe 7 or maybe 8 inches of snow. Sometimes those areas can be just a few miles wide and a few miles long, and trying to put that, you're almost throwing a dart at a board trying to figure out where that's going to be. And sometimes you can figure it out right as the event's happening. You could say, hey, this area we're seeing a lot of winds coming together leading to upward motion and some better snowfall rates, but at least about 24 hours out, which is what we were this afternoon, it's kind of tough to do that. But kind of keep an eye out on that. And again, be prepared for updates. If we get better information tomorrow that shows more of a wind shift in a certain direction, this zone may change a little bit. But right now, this is what we expect. This is not expected to be a big deal for most of the area. Notice we've got a trace to 2 inches around the rest of the region. And I got to be honest with you, I think most areas are going to be between a trace to 1 inch rather than 2. But if we get those snow squalls that have some really good snowfall rates in there, could we see maybe a localized total around 1.5, 2? I think that's possible, but I do think that's more of the exception rather than the rule. So if you're in the gray zone, a trace to 2, I would say closer to a trace to 1 inch rather than 2. I think 2 would be more of an isolated thing, but we'll see what happens for tomorrow. So I'm going to pause there just for a moment so I can catch up in some of the chat. Wanted to give you a quick breakdown. Good to see some of the the typical streamers on here tonight. Let's see, Kathy asked, is it spring yet? I'm sure you're not alone in that thought, Kathy. Kara, I don't think, I can't tell if you're saying you don't want to go to school tomorrow or if you do want to go to school. I would plan on having school. Christopher said winter has really not hit that bad yet. Yeah, I mean, we're not, it probably seems a little bit more active this winter, especially because we got an earlier start this winter. We were pretty active in November, which isn't always the case lately. But outside of, the fact that it seems like we're busy, we're really not. Just because the last several winters haven't really been all that bad. And so when we actually get what seems like more of a normal winter, well, it seems a little bit worse than it actually is. So we haven't got into a really prolonged cold snap yet. I do think we'll get, some cooler temperatures here in the next 7 days. But yeah, you're right. It really hasn't been that bad. Deborah asks about the wind. We'll go over the wind in a minute. Sherry, I think it's going to be more of a fluffy snow this time around. Linda says, I would take today's temperatures and hope it stays like that the rest of the winter. Yeah, 40s are a little bit easier to get through than what we'll see the next couple of days. So that's a quick breakdown of the snowfall map. We'll come back to it. I also want to bring some attention to the wind chill factor. So this is 9 o'clock on Wednesday. Our wind chills tonight, really nothing significant. But if you jump towards Wednesday at 9 o'clock, we're already seeing those wind chills drop into the single digits. And also, as we head towards the afternoon, we'll probably start getting some areas that drop below 0. So I think you'll see a much different feel tomorrow. And so, Linda, I know you said you were hoping today's temperatures stick around. Unfortunately, tomorrow is not the day. So I think we'll get back at some point this winter. We always have the thaw patterns, most years anyway. But certainly the next 7 days are going to be a little bit tougher to take compared to what today was. And I think we can be looking at wind chills Wednesday nights between about 0 and 10 below at least. And potentially, I think into Thursday morning, you might be seeing some areas pushing 10 to 15 degrees below 0 as we start our Thursday. As far as the wind, I think we see a brief relaxing relative to what we saw this afternoon tonight, but still seeing gusts between about 15 and 20. And then tomorrow, picking right back up to about 25 to 35 miles per hour, maybe near 40 in some sections of the thumb. So it's going to be windy again tomorrow. Maybe a little bit of a break again Thursday night and Thursday itself, but wouldn't anticipate that winds really going anywhere either. So we'll go back to the winter storm watch map. Check in on some of the comments again. John, Port Austin, live on the water, we'll get lots of snow. Yeah, Port Austin, John, you're kind of in the area tomorrow and into early Thursday. That seems to be kind of in line for getting several inches of snow. Would love, John, if you're on the stream tomorrow night, if you're a first timer, we do this every night at 9 o'clock. Feel free to let me know how much you get tomorrow night or how much you have up to that point tomorrow night. And then if you want to check in again on Thursday, would love to have that. Would appreciate you. Yeah, Michelle, Bert's going to be cold the next couple of days. Everybody's going to be cold. Have you heard any big snow at the end of the month? No. Anyone who says a big snow is coming at the end of the month, you can recognize patterns that might be favorable for big snow, but anyone claiming a big snow is guaranteed, a little premature for that. Okay, Kara, that makes sense. Don't want to go to school, have exams. I wouldn't want to go to school either. Jason and Lori, Ogama County, I don't expect much snow the next couple of days. As always, that could change, but you've got more of a northwesterly wind off of Lake Michigan this time around. And so usually if it's directed at Ogama County, it's more of a northwesterly wind. This time, I think you're going to see more of the snowflakes kind of pushed out to Lake Michigan and not really aimed towards Ogama. Chrissy asks a good question. If the wind shifts more northeast, will Tawas and Oscoda get more? I would say that's plausible. Northeasterly is typically a favorable direction for you. I don't see it going northeast. I would say maybe more northerly than northwest, but I don't predict, at least for now, I don't see a change to more of a northeasterly direction. But yes, if that did happen, then you would. How much would depend on a lot of other things, but yeah, I don't expect much. Richard, I don't see a ton for Midland. Again, you're kind of in the trace to 2-inch range, more likely trace to an inch range. I think a lot of totals will probably be around a ½ inch or so. But it's just one of those scenarios where a trace to 2 inches over the entire area, almost, except for that blue zone, kind of seems like a cop-out. But it's really just the scattered nature of that lake effect snow, and you're going to have pockets that get hit harder than others. And so that's why it's more of a broad area, not just trying to make our lives easy. So Paige, you ask a good question. You're asking about Bad Axe. And again, Bad Axe is a really tough place to be as far as this forecast, because right now I kind of have Bad Axe just outside of the heaviest zone, but you're so close that I can't tell you won't be. So you're kind of like right on the edge, that 2 to 6 area. I would probably put you more at a 1 to 3 for now. But again, if this goes more of a northerly wind rather than northwest, I could see Bad Axe being right in play with some of those areas. Let me just take a look and see if what the probabilities look like for Bad Axe. Kind of like the percent chance of 4 inches of snow or more. I just want to take a look at what that is saying. You've got about a 30 to 40% chance of getting 4 inches or more, so a little less than a coin flip. So maybe we do have to back that 2 to 6 zone a little bit further to the west to include Bad Axe entirely. But it's kind of splitting hairs at this point. Just know if you're in Bad Axe, it'll be a close call. Yeah, Sherry, we're not going to see 40 for a while. Let me pull up the 7-day. We're going to have plenty of days in the 20s and the teens right through early next week. Braden, for northern Tuscola, unless we get a much stronger shift to the west, as far as that map goes, I don't expect a lot for Tuscola. I would say Tuscola is in that trace to 2-inch range. But for those of you who live in the thumb, you know that, again, any small shift in that wind, and all of a sudden you could go from an area that's not supposed to get a lot of snow to all of a sudden getting a lot of snow. But I don't anticipate that for Tuscola this time. That would be a dramatic shift. So yeah, trace to 2, Braden. All right, so it's about 9:23. So that is about the summary of our forecast this time around. Of course, we will have another update for you tomorrow night. I've got to get some preparation done for our 10 o'clock newscast, get a little bit of a preparation done for our 11 o'clock as well. And yeah, windy Michigan weather is pretty hard to predict. I think we do a pretty good job, but even what we feel is the best forecast sometimes can throw us for a loop. And Jeremy asked a quick question before I sign off here. Storm this weekend. Jeremy, I wouldn't necessarily say storm's always that tricky word because technically you get storm systems. What I think you'll see from Friday through the weekend and maybe even into early next week is I think you'll get multiple rounds of smaller snows. So I don't think one big storm, but I think you'll have a chance to pick up a few inches from, say, Friday through Monday. But I'll have more specifics on that later this week once we kind of work this snow out of our system. Because right now, what happens is we get all of this snow that's being projected for Wednesday night and Thursday, and it kind of makes the rest of our snowfall projections later in the week a little noisier. We can break them down a little bit more, but I usually like to wait and kind of get the snow from tomorrow out of the system and then start looking towards the weekend. So I wouldn't say storm, but I think multiple instances of snow, which could probably add up in a few areas. So we will end it there. Hope everyone has a great night. Thanks to all of you for watching as usual. And of course, we will do this again tomorrow night. And I will see you all then. And we will talk to you tomorrow.